The 1980s were the most censored decade in the history of American and British popular music. The BBC banned hundreds of songs. The US Senate held formal hearings. Police arrested musicians for performing their own songs. Federal judges declared entire albums illegal to sell. The FBI sent threatening letters to record labels. And nearly every time, the music got more popular. Because here is the thing that the PMRC, the BBC, the sheriffs, and the senators never understood. Banning a song is the best advertising money can't buy. The moment you tell an audience they're not allowed to hear something, that is the only thing they want to hear. These are the 15 most controversial banned songs of the 1980s. Not just the songs, the full story. The courtrooms, the hearings, the DJs who pulled needles off records, and the bands who responded by turning up even louder.
Yeah, that's what you are. You want it.
Song 1. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax. 1984. Relax was released in October 1983. It entered the UK charts at number 67. By Christmas, it still hadn't cracked the top 40. Then on January 5, 1984, Frankie Goes to Hollywood performed it on Top of the Pops. The following week it shot from number 35 to number 6. And then everything fell apart, in the best possible way. The BBC had been quietly reviewing the song after their controller, Derek Chinnery, discovered the lyric included the words, "suck" and "come." He declared this proof of obscenity. Meanwhile, a Radio 1 DJ named Mike Redd had already been told by his producer to pull the record. Because the producer had gone home to find his daughters rewinding the band's video, which featured scenes that Redd later described as simulating acts of extreme sexual content. On January 11, 1984, Mike Reed announced on air that he found the song obscene and refused to play it. 2 days later, the BBC officially banned it across all radio and television. Here's what they didn't account for. The band created a story, and that story made the song inescapable. Record stores across Britain sold out of copies. Commercial radio stations, not bound by the BBC's rules, played it on repeat and boasted they were airing the song the BBC banned. The Aberdeen record store, One Up, told journalists, "Banning the record has created an air of mystery. We've had people coming in asking to hear what all the fuss is about." On January 24th, 1984, Relax reached number 1, replacing Paul McCartney's Pipes of Peace. It held the top spot for 5 weeks, and it remained in the UK top 40 for 37 consecutive weeks, 35 of which overlapped with the BBC's airplay ban. Here is the extraordinary final detail. Frankie Goes to Hollywood became only the second act in the history of the UK charts to have their first 3 singles all reach number 1, the first being Jerry and the Pacemakers in the 1960s. Both Liverpool bands, 30 years apart. The second one got there because a DJ lifted a needle off a record. Song 2. Twisted Sister. We're Not Gonna Take It, 1985. Dee Snider showed up to the United States Senate in a cut-off denim vest, snakeskin boots, and mascara. His hands were shaking. "I was born in the 1950s, he later said. Even after Watergate, there was still the illusion that Washington, D.C. was like Oz, a great city where great people were doing great things for our benefit." The song We're Not Gonna Take It had been included on the PMRC's infamous Filthy 15. The list of America's most dangerous songs compiled by Tipper Gore and 3 other women married to powerful U.S. senators. The PMRC cited it for violence. The accompanying video, they claimed, showed children physically assaulting their father. Snyder's response was devastating. He told the Senate the video was inspired by Wile E. Coyote cartoons. He said the only people who saw violence in it were people looking for violence. He then turned to Tipper Gore's interpretation of the band's other song, Under the Blade, which she had described as containing themes of sadomasochism and bondage, and told the assembled senators that the song was actually written about his guitarist's throat surgery. Then he looked directly at Tipper Gore and said, "The only sadomasochism, bondage, and rape in this song is in the mind of Ms. Gore." Al Gore, who was present as a senator, not as the husband of a PMRC member, reportedly stared laser beams at Snyder for the rest of his testimony. He could not respond on the record. His wife had already said the thing publicly. Snyder had the transcript. Snyder later recalled, "The raw hatred I saw in Al Gore's eyes when I said Tipper Gore had a dirty mind for interpreting my song as about sadomasochism and bondage was a joy to behold." Song 3, Prince, Darling Nikki, 1984. This is the song that started everything. In 1984, Tipper Gore purchased the album Purple Rain for her 11-year-old daughter. She got it home, put it on, and heard the opening line of Darling Nikki. The song opens with an explicit reference to a woman masturbating in a hotel lobby. Tipper Gore called Susan Baker, whose husband was Treasury Secretary James Baker. Susan Baker called 2 other women married to powerful government officials. They formed the Parents Music Resource Center. They compiled the Filthy 15. They went to the Senate. The entire architecture of 1980s music censorship in America, the Filthy 15, the Senate hearings, Frank Zappa's testimony, Dee Snider's mascara, the parental advisory sticker that is still on albums today, traces back to one purchase, one record, one living room, one 11-year-old girl. Prince's response was characteristically Prince-like. Complete silence. He didn't show up to the Senate. He didn't give interviews about it. He wrote more music. He kept performing. The Purple Rain album sold over 20 million copies. The parental advisory sticker, originally proposed as a detailed content rating system with categories for violence, sex, and the occult, was reduced to a single generic label through industry negotiation. The PMRC wanted a rating system like the movies. What they got was a sticker. And that sticker, born from one parent hearing one song in one living room, became a marketing tool. Studies later showed that teenagers sought out albums with the sticker. Sales increased. The PMRC had invented the best possible advertising for the music they wanted to suppress. Yet Prince's label immediately put the sticker on the re-release. They knew exactly what they were doing. YouTube search terms for B-roll, Prince Purple Rain. 1984 concert, PMRC formation story. Parental advisory sticker history. Tipper Gore interview, 1985. Song 4, George Michael, I Want Your Sex, 1987. In the summer of 1987, in the middle of the AIDS epidemic, George Michael released a song with the word sex in the title. It was the first time a song with just the word sex, not sexual or sexy, but sex, had reached the top 10 on either side of the Atlantic. The BBC restricted it to post-9 p.m. airplay only, the first daytime ban of its kind in years. U.S. radio stations refused to air it. MTV sent the video back for editing twice, before agreeing to run it with a disclaimer at the start. Some American stations renamed it I Want Your Love in their schedules to avoid having to say the word sex on air. Here is the darkest irony. The BBC banned the song amid concerns it was promoting casual sex and promiscuity during the AIDS crisis. Yeah, but Michael had filmed the video specifically to argue for monogamy. He wrote the words, "Explore monogamy," on his girlfriend in lipstick during the shoot. The song was an argument for committed relationships, the same argument the public health establishment was making. The BBC banned a song that was literally making their own case because the title had the word sex in it. Michael was furious. He told Jonathan Ross, "I wasn't expecting the blanket ban. I think it's unfair. It's the first ban of its kind in a long time. And I think if I were not George Michael, it would have been played on those stations without any problem." He was 23 years old when he made this statement. His previous band, Wham!, had been teen pop royalty. He had a clean-cut public image. He was trying, carefully, and deliberately, to be taken seriously as a solo adult artist. What the BBC and the radio programmers didn't know in 1987, what nobody knew except his closest friends, was that George Michael was gay and closeted. The song about monogamy. The video with the girlfriend, the framing around a straight relationship. He came out publicly 11 years later. The song reached number 2 in the US. It stayed on the charts for months. It became the opening statement of the Faith era, one of the best-selling albums of the 1980s. YouTube search terms for B-roll, George Michael Faith album. 1987, I Want Your Sex video. Jonathan Ross interview 1987. Beverly Hills Cop 2 soundtracks. Song 6, Cyndi Lauper, She Bop, 1984. Cyndi Lauper was on the PMRC's Filthy 15. The category assigned to She Bop was masturbation/incest. The incest charge was a stretch. Lauper later described the song as simply being about female self-pleasure. It was a pop song. It had a catchy chorus. It went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The PMRC heard the line, "They say I better stop or I'll go blind," and decided it needed to be on a list of America's most dangerous songs. She Bop appeared on the same list as We're Not Gonna Take It, Darling Nikki, and Merciful Fate's Into the Coven. Cyndi Lauper, in her colorful thrift store outfits, singing about female autonomy, sitting beside a Danish black metal band on a list of songs Congress believed were destroying American youth. Lauper's response was to wear a wedding dress to the Grammy Awards in February 1985. Accept the award for Best New Artist, and continue being exactly who she was. What the PMRC listing did. It introduced Lauper's more adventurous, self-authored music to millions of parents who were looking for the thing they were told was dangerous, and finding a pop song they couldn't actually argue with. YouTube search terms for B-roll, Cyndi Lauper, She Bop video, Grammy Awards. 1985, Filthy 15 list, PMRC document. Song 7, Madonna. Like a Prayer, 1989. This is the one that caused a multinational corporation to walk away from a multi-million-dollar contract.
Oh God, I think I'm falling.
Madonna released Like a Prayer on March 3, 1989. The same day, March 3rd, a Pepsi commercial aired on television using the song. Pepsi had paid Madonna $5 million for the exclusive right to use it in their advertising campaign. It was one of the biggest celebrity endorsement deals in music history. The commercial was wholesome.
Good dream, let the choir sing.
Madonna as a child, a birthday party, family. Nothing remotely controversial. Then people saw the actual music video. The video featured Madonna in front of burning crosses. She kissed a black saint who had come to life from a church statue. She had wounds on her hands suggesting stigmata. She danced in a slip in a church. The Vatican condemned it. The American Family Association launched a boycott of Pepsi. Thousands of people called Pepsi's offices. Pepsi canceled the contract. They kept the $5 million already paid. But they pulled the commercial entirely and walked away from the partnership. Madonna kept the money and kept the video. The song went to #1 in 18 countries. The controversy drove sales of the Like a Prayer album to over 15 million copies worldwide. Here is the calculation that made Madonna different from almost every other artist of her era. She understood that the commercial was not the point. The commercial was funding. The video was the art. And the art, the burning crosses, the saint, the stigmata, was the conversation she actually wanted to have. Pepsi paid for it, then left. See YouTube search terms for B-roll, Madonna Like a Prayer video. 1989, Pepsi commercial, Vatican condemnation, American Family Association boycott. Song 8, The Boomtown Rats. I Don't Like Mondays, 1979/1980. This song is one of the most chilling band stories on this entire list.
Machine is kept so clean and it types to a waiting.
On January 29, 1979, a 16-year-old girl named Brenda Ann Spencer opened fire from her home across the street at Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, California. She killed 2 adults and wounded 8 children. When a reporter asked her why she did it, she said, "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day." Bob Geldof of the Boomtown Rats heard the quote on the radio. He wrote a song the same day. I Don't Like Mondays went to #1 in the UK in 1979 and became one of the Boomtown Rats' defining recordings. Geldof later said the quote was so bleak, so empty of reason, that the only response was to write a song that inhabited the emptiness. In the United States, on several radio stations refused to air it, not because of content, but because of proximity. The shooting had happened in San Diego. The song was still new.
And school's out early, and soon we be learning in the lesson to...
Stations near the area felt it was inappropriate. Brenda Spencer was sentenced to 25 years to life. She has been denied parole multiple times. At her most recent parole hearings, she blamed her actions on drug and alcohol use and an abusive home. She remains incarcerated. The song outlasted every attempt to suppress it. Bob Geldof, 5 years later, would organize Live Aid. One of the largest fundraising concerts in history. But this was the song that established him as a writer who could look at the darkest corner of a story and find the human being inside it. YouTube search terms. For B-roll, Boomtown Rats. Live 1979. Grover Cleveland Elementary archive footage. Bob Geldof interview. Saw Top of the Pops, I Don't Like Mondays.
Stopped in the playground now. She wants to play with the toys.
Song 10. Ozzy Osbourne. Suicide Solution. Lawsuit, 1986. The lawsuit against Ozzy Osbourne in 1986 followed a similar pattern to the Judas Priest case. Parents of a teenager who had died by suicide sued the artist, claiming the song had caused the death. But here is the detail that makes this story almost unbearably strange. Suicide Solution was written as a warning about alcohol. The title is not a euphemism for death. Solution, as in liquid. The song is about drinking yourself to death. His bassist Bob Daisley, who wrote the lyrics, has said the song was written about Ozzy himself, about watching Ozzy drink his way towards self-destruction after being fired from Black Sabbath. A plea dressed as a song. It was performed by the man it was secretly written about. The case went to court, or the judge ruled the lyrics were protected speech. It was dismissed. 2 further incidents with the same song were reported in subsequent years. none of the lawsuits succeeded. The First Amendment held. But the lasting consequence was something no courtroom could address. The fact that a song written by a sober bassist as a cry for help for his bandmate became, for families in grief, the easiest possible explanation for the inexplicable. YouTube. Search terms for B-roll. Ozzy Osbourne. 1982. Interview, Blizzard of Oz sessions, Bob Daisley interview, Suicide Solution lawsuit coverage. Song 11. 2 Live Crew. Me So Horny. 1989. In June 1990, 3 members of 2 Live Crew were arrested in Broward County, Florida, for performing their own songs at a nightclub. Not for incitement, not for protest, for performing music, at a venue, for adults, who paid to attend. The chain of events that led to that arrest had started months earlier when a federal judge in Florida ruled that the 2 Live Crew album, As Nasty As They Wanna Be, the album containing Me So Horny, was legally obscene. It became the first album in history to be declared legally obscene. Sheriff Nick Navarro of Broward County sent deputies to retail stores. A record store owner named Charles Freeman was arrested for selling a copy to an undercover police officer. Luther Campbell, who sold his early records out of the trunk of his car before going platinum, later said, "I didn't have to challenge the ruling in federal court, but I was prepared to go to jail for my rights." The appellate court overturned the obscenity ruling.
I'll play with your heart and won't show no shame. I'll be blowing.
The band members arrested for performing were acquitted. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, which declined to hear it, leaving the acquittal in place. The most important footnote: at a concert in Philadelphia that same year, David Bowie stopped his show mid-song to defend 2 Live Crew. He told the audience he had heard the album. He didn't think it was the best album ever made, but when he heard it was banned, he went out and bought it immediately.
This Marquis baby, are you down with it? I arrived at a house.
Freedom of thought, freedom of speech, Bowie said from stage. Now it's one of the most important things we have. The follow-up album 2 Live Crew, released after the legal battle, was titled Banned in the USA. Bruce Springsteen gave them permission to interpolate Born in the USA. It was the first release in history to carry the standardized parental advisory sticker, the black and white label that every PMRC hearing had been building toward.
The dog in heat, a freak without warning, not having appetite.
The sticker born from Tipper Gore's living room. First affixed to the album of the group that the government had actually arrested. YouTube search terms for B-roll, 2 Live Crew, 1990 trial footage, Luther Campbell interview, Banned in the USA album, David Bowie, Philadelphia concert 1990.
Said it yourself, you like it like I do, put your arms around.
Song 12, The Smiths, Girlfriend in a Coma, 1987. This one is different from every other entry on this list because it wasn't banned by a government, a radio station, or a moral crusader. It was banned by the band themselves. When the BBC included Girlfriend in a Coma in a documentary about euthanasia, he hadn't been asked. He demanded the clip be pulled. But the broader story of the Smiths and censorship is about what was not banned. What made the Smiths extraordinary was that they wrote songs about suicide, death, loneliness, and despair. And those songs were so artistically self-evident that no broadcaster could make a sustained case that they were harmful. The music made the argument for itself. YouTube search terms for B-roll, The Smiths Live 1986, Morrissey interview, BBC, Girlfriend in a Coma performance, The Queen is Dead sessions. Song 13, Guns N' Roses, 1 in a Million, 1988. This is the one that even the band wishes had never existed. 1 in a Million.
I just need my ticket till then.
Was a track on the 1988 G-Enter Lies album. It contained racial slurs targeting black people and immigrants. It contained a homophobic slur. Axl Rose defended the song as autobiographical. As the perspective of a young man from Indiana arriving in Los Angeles and feeling overwhelmed and hostile.
And think they'll do as they please.
The defense was unconvincing and remains unconvincing. Rock radio largely refused to play it. MTV would not air any video for it. The PMRC, which had focused almost entirely on heavy metal and hip-hop, found itself in the awkward position of having to respond to one of the most commercially successful rock bands of the decade. Slash, whose mother is black, later said the song put him in an impossible position. And he stayed in the band. He said he disagreed with the lyrics. He made his peace with it privately, in a way that he later described as deeply uncomfortable. Elton John refused to perform at the band's 1992 tribute concert for Freddie Mercury if Axl Rose was involved. Citing the song specifically, Axl ultimately didn't participate in that part of the event. The song was never a single, never officially promoted. And has been quietly omitted from most retrospective discussions of the band's work by the band themselves. It is the one band song on this list where the ban was arguably the correct response, and where the most damning verdict was delivered not by a senator or a radio programmer, but by Axl Rose himself, who spent the next 3 decades never quite defending it again. YouTube search terms for B-roll, Guns N' Roses, 1988, GNR Lies album, /interview, Axl Rose, interview 1988. Song 14, The Specials, Ghost Town, 1981. Ghost Town was banned by several UK radio stations in July 1981. Not for obscenity, not for sexual content, not for political messaging, but because it was too accurate. The song described the collapse of inner-city Britain, empty streets, factories closed, violence escalating, young men with nothing to do. It was released on June 19, 1981. It went to number 1. On July 3rd, while Ghost Town was number 1,
Who you gonna call?
the Toxteth riots began in Liverpool. Following weeks of racial tension and heavy-handed policing, the neighborhood erupted into some of the worst civil unrest Britain had seen since World War II. 36 hours of burning buildings, police charges, and Molotov cocktails. Similar riots broke out in Brixton, Handsworth, Chapeltown, and Moss Side. 30 cities, all while Ghost Town sat at the top of the UK charts.
Who you gonna call?
Several stations removed it from their playlists, not because it was provocative, but because it was prophetic. Because playing it felt like rubbing it in, like the song had known. The Specials had simply watched their own community die around them and written down what they saw. They had toured the industrial Midlands and seen the empty factories and the boys on street corners and the pubs with no money in them. They wrote a song about what was happening. It arrived at number 1 the week the country confirmed they were right. That is a different kind of ban. One born of embarrassment rather than outrage. YouTube search terms for B-roll, The Specials, Ghost Town Live, Toxteth Riots. 1981. BBC footage, UK unemployment. 1981. Top of the Pops. July 1981.
I hear it likes the girls.
Song 15, Public Enemy, Fight the Power, 1989. Chuck D wrote Fight the Power for Spike Lee's 1989 film Do the Right Thing. The film was set in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn over the course of one unbearably hot summer day, building toward a fatal confrontation between a black man and the police. Lee wanted something that would open the film, something that felt like an anthem. Something that young Black Americans could actually play in the street. Chuck D delivered. Fight the Power opens with a direct challenge to Elvis Presley and John Wayne, calling them out by name, questioning their mythology, refusing their position as American icons. It calls out the political establishment. It names systemic oppression and names it in language that radio programmers found impossible to navigate. Dozens of radio stations refused to play it. MTV would only air it late at night. The song was called inflammatory, dangerous, and divisive by critics and programmers across the country. But it was playing from boomboxes throughout the entire sequence of Do the Right Thing, the film that was itself nearly banned from the Cannes Film Festival, that was boycotted by some American theater chains before it opened, that was described by a New York Post columnist as a potential spark for riots. None of that happened. The film won the BAFTA Award for Best Original Screenplay. It was named the greatest film of its decade by the American Film Institute in 2002. And Fight the Power, the song that couldn't get daytime radio play, was inducted into the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry in 2004, on one of the recordings deemed culturally, historically, or artistically significant enough to preserve for all time. It was banned in the morning, preserved for all time in the afternoon. That is the full arc of music censorship, told in one song. YouTube search terms for B-roll: Public Enemy, Fight the Power, live Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee, Chuck D interview, 1989, Library of Congress Recording Registry.
In the rhythm I'm